Would you want to do that first, the plat,
Yeah,
since Mr. Ellsworth's here? So,
I'll make him wait. Give us a rough time.
so you're even gonna have to tell me where to sign, Roger.
Very top left, and they always hide it, it's kind of like a word ball. Very top left.
Oh,
Yeah.
it'll be in a different place every single plat.
Mine are always top left. Gotta use the same.
Finally got this worked out, huh?
Which one is it? Storage edition, just off the country corner.
Right behind the country corner storage units, which
Yeah.
Mike Sell owns it now, right?
And
So the
there's
same
only like
person who owns the,
113 foot of frontage on an already developed arterial road, so there's no development agreement and there's no improvement drawings, because it's already there, so.
Is he the one that had the question on the right of way? I can't remember which one.
No.
Not on this one.
no,
Something to that word.
can't remember.
We kind of, I think that's how to do about it, because he was questioning the right of way for the road improvement. I
So
think
Mike
that
will
was
also, well, but not for this one, but for one
49.
of, yeah, 49th North.
The old Sorensen Acres reply. That was the one. No, that's my kids. Okay, this is Mike Soul, who owns Country Point. Yeah, this is on like Country Point. Yeah, I looked him up on the parcel and he had questions on it.
This wasn't him, I
Yeah.
remember that, it was down the road the other direction. I can't remember who it was though.
It was a different road section than this one right there.
Yeah,
We never heard back from him. I think it's when they were trying to purchase, as he said. He's curious because Hammond's. Thank you much.
good to see you,
Good, how are
Steve.
you?
Have a good one. Good seeing you again. I'll see you again. How's your snow?
Still no retirement from your dad?
How's your snow? He's up there
Not very good.
thinking
I broke down.
May-ish. Went from October to May.
Not here yet.
Bump it up sooner and sooner now. Put it off for 2 years now. It's gonna be sooner and sooner.
Yeah.
We'll see ya.
Phone with the kid from down in Pocatello just now. They're getting off. Hopefully it'll be there.
You're glad you got it.
Yeah, maybe act like this.
Start
right?
now, now.
Pretty bad up there.
Now, it's the wind's blowing, that's about it. Yeah, it's not too bad. The wind's the worst part. I think it kind of blew the snow out and that's about it.
What do you want to go this permit next?
That's gonna take a little bit longer than a couple of the others,
Okay.
but if you wanna do so the LILB program. Have on the agenda to have it's just an agreement to sign that we agree that we're gonna participate in the design and the replacement of a bridge on 49th South. This is through the leading Idaho local bridges. They're paying for all of it. They're paying for the design and the construction. This is the 4th bridge out of the 6 that we applied for that's gonna be replaced.
You okay with that? So is it administrator? Is that where I sign? Or else? Designated official?
Designated official, that would be,
You're as suspicious as they get.
I thought you were the most important person in the county.
I'm down there scraping the bottom, you know that. When it comes to importance, by golly, I can show you where the bottom is on that.
See Operation Stop the Landfill, see how
That-
fast they're
Exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
In this case, everything rolls uphill.
Oh, yeah, that's true.
the next easier one is probably, this is a proposal and it's not on the agenda to sign. But it's a proposal from Burgess and Nyepel to fill out a grant application for a bridge replacement planning study. And this is for large bridges with large costs. The one that we've identified on this is on the Snake River at 145th North.
Who pays for it?
So we would pay for the cost of it. We have talked with Jefferson County and we were in discussions with them. We have a maintenance agreement that they would pay half of the maintenance cost of that bridge. And so we would anticipate Jefferson County paying half of this proposal, which is $20,000 for the grant application. It's a total of $20,000, so we'd pay 10 and Jefferson County would be 10.
I think if we do it, we should make sure it's on the record that it's contingent on them sharing. It usually isn't a problem in Jefferson.
It usually isn't, but that's why it's more of a discussion item. And they've had some recent challenges with some of their people, and so the person I was working with at Jefferson County is right now not the person I need to work with, so. And we don't have a person to work with, so I might need to get a hold of the commissioners directly and make sure that they're on board with this. But if you're okay with it, what I'll do is I'll approach them and make sure they're okay with it, and then I'll let Purchase and Lample know.
And then it would be an action item.
Then it would be on there.
Yes,
Which you could do on any 9 o'clock meeting if you're in a hurry.
right,
with 48 hour notice.
yeah.
Which I see the agenda does not include any action items today. The posted
But-
agenda.
Well, they're not normally listed as action items, but they're on here. And unless it says discussion items, it's usually an action item.
Probably ought to clarify that.
So officially, that has to be action item listed on the agenda that's posted publicly for us to take action on. Where?
The Road and Bridge Weekly Meeting action item.
So is that all right? So that kind of puts it
Well,
where all of them are an action item.
yeah, technically, I mean, you can always say we won't take action on it now. That probably would cover this. Did you have this listed on those?
I had it listed on there as discuss the proposal.
Okay, that's how you're clarifying it.
So the default is an action item.
The default is an action item.
Probably would be cleaner after each one.
It
Put that
would,
item.
that's the way they would rather us have it.
Yeah, well, and that would be,
Hey,
The player point of Blair.
no, not Blair, Kayla, sorry.
I know how.
she's never.
I don't know how well Blair takes speaking example.
You know, I'm the best at that.
Okay,
You
Now
now
we-
take care of it the way you do all other paper products in the county.
That's right.
file 13. Now we can talk about the
Okay,
industrial user permit.
go ahead.
So this is both a template and a specific permit for Intermountain Meatpacking. It talks about specifically what they will be required to do if we accept waste from an industrial user, generally based on the amount of waste produced. It is an industrial or commercial waste that we don't typically deal with. It outlines standards that they have to meet. It is essentially resolved around the paint filter test, which is in the Code of Federal Regulations. It requires a paint filter test for every 4 cubic yards or less of waste that would be delivered. It also requires a certified weight ticket to be presented at the transfer station after they schedule with the transfer station to deliver a load up to Peterson.
So quick question, and this was one of the things I was gonna ask you the other day and I forgot. So is there any way to keep them away from the transfer?
Well, so your scale at the transfer station is not a certified weight ticket scale. So this would this would require a certified weight ticket from probably out at the truck stop to be able to go.
But our scale is certified.
Well, it's not. Well, your scale is certified for weighing product, but I don't know that we're in the market of certifying weights for everybody. It's for those who are delivering to the transfer station that we're weighing, right?
Yeah, but is that spelled out?
It's not spelled out differently than that.
Cause that's the one thing I still don't understand. What harm would they have them just drive over it? I know, you know, supposedly. I mean, you're not a bed of roses out there smell wise, it's like, you know, but just have them give, take a give. That becomes a sticking point, so I don't think we have anything that puts.
Yeah, I guess that, the odor issue is going to be a problem in the summer. I mean, that's my concern. Winter time when it's cold, maybe not so much. I don't know, I've never been around in the winter, but in the summer, it's really good. I just didn't know if there was a.
Don't you have the possibility of getting an average load weight with a few of them and then charge them per load?
I would prefer not to do that. The permit is specifically that there is a weight ticket for each load.
Well, the truck stop is just down the road from,
Yes,
okay, so it's actually.
it's actually closer to the transfer station to us than,
The other question I've got is because, we're approving their specific permit, but we haven't adopted the process.
and that's why it's on the agenda to talk about the process, and I don't. Right now, it is a single individual,
Who
but
signs the permit?
on this permit, it would be signed by Intermountain Packing and it would be signed by me.
Okay, because that's where it's a little confusing. If we're adopting this permit, or are we adopting this being a sample with the blanks filled in for Intermountain? And then you fill, I think it'd be better to just have a blank.
Well, the agenda has significant industrial user, doesn't say anything about Intermountain Packaging. So I think today if we choose to, we would adopt the generic.
The
The
generic.
generic form.
Yeah,
Form.
yeah.
And
And then you can use it for whoever,
yeah,
is
and he
needed.
signs it,
yeah.
because that way we're not
Okay,
specifically dealing with one that you're gonna be dealing with.
yeah.
But I would suggest if they, based on the terms of this, and anybody that comes in, unless you change your policy, we probably need to weigh it when they come through there.
Anybody that gets this significant industrial user would need to be weighed for every single load.
Yeah, but
That's-
that could be the transfer station or someplace else.
So who are other users that would be required to have this permit?
Right now, the only other one that could be considered, I think, would be the wastewater treatment plant person. But I don't know that we have a standing working agreement with them where we don't have a permit in place. And I don't know that we would be required to change based on how the working relationship we have with them.
But we currently also have a contract with them, correct?
We have a contract to haul leachate to them.
So you have a contract on it.
We don't have a written contract
Not the
to,
other way around.
right,
It's for leachate, not both, correct?
yeah.
Don't we just charge them based, that's what I wondered. I think you'd prefer not to do it based on, you know, if you've got a repeat user. And their average size truck is so many tons, you just charge them by the load.
Did you, not to get off subject quickly, but did you look at the? Oh, no. So the girl at Southern Idaho said their average was about five.
5.5 cubic yards or 5 ton?
Ton.
5 tons. So
On the
I did
material
not see
they
that.
had taken down.
Yeah,
So-
I did not see
I
that.
mean, we do it with the wastewater treatment facility, and honestly, we've had them intermittently weigh. Just because sometimes they get a new truck or, you know, so every once in a while we update our lightweights and heavyweights in our system. And they're not very far off, so I think I agree to keep it away from the transfer station. And if they're gonna be a repetitive user, probably could be just,
come up with an estimate, it'd be easier for you to administer too, than having to keep every weight ticket.
Well, we just felt that, Weston and I both felt that as those loads were being delivered up on the hill, they provide that weight ticket to the person doing the inspection, and they're the ones, Intermountain Packing would be keeping the records, not us. We just see that and use that to charge that load based on the tonnage.
That's if you're charging based.
Right.
You're either going exact or you're gonna do an estimate on the average, which
In the permitting process, I think it is cleaner to do the exact weights in a certified weight ticket. If we've got a working relationship and with Ursid, we can do the average, and we've been doing the average for years and years and years.
if you're gonna require a weight ticket.
You gotta
For
bring
a
the weights
significant industrial user, and
that'd
then,
be a significant industrial user.
well, and
But
that's,
the terms are a little different because this is a requirement for a paint filter test. Based on the federal requirements.
well, and it would be a paint filter test that would be required. If you did it with Ursid, they would also have to do the paint filter test.
which they meet that criteria with that.
But not on the basis that this calls out, not one paint filter test for every 4 cubic yards.
That I don't know. I never don't get to quite that deep.
Well, they haven't been taking that many tests, I guarantee it.
I just know that we have a letter that states that they can meet the paint filter test at any time if it's required
Well,
from them.
this permit calls specifically for one paint filter test for every 4 cubic yards.
Yeah, your first line identifies what a significant industrial user is. If they're disposing of substances addressed in ordinance 255-23. So anybody who falls in that has got to follow this the same. I mean, we can't make exceptions in my mind for someone just because we've been doing that in the past.
And
Everybody's got to be treated the same.
I don't have a list of everybody that would fall under that ordinance, and I don't think you do either, Blair, do you?
I don't have a list necessarily, but I mean, any of our wastewater treatment people, we just have Ursid, and then the Teton Valley, we have 2 small quantity generators out of there to bring us this, I mean, it's the wastewater treatment facilities out of Teton.
It's dewater sludge.
Those would be the only ones that probably fall underneath that.
Which is, that's true, Roger. Everybody's got to be treated the same. So,
Yeah. Does that have a specific section in the ordinance or just refer to the whole thing?
It refers to the whole thing, 255-23.
That's been one of my concerns from the start, was to make sure that we didn't implement something that was going to harm or cause increased scrutiny of our wastewater treatment people. And I know where you're coming from as far as the testing, and I understand that part of it, but I don't know. I mean, is that something we need to run past our? I guess if your wastewater people see they can't, or say they, well, we can't really do that though. I was gonna say, if they say they can meet that paint filter test at any time, they're still not taking it every 4 cubic
Cubic
yards as it's spelled out in.
Yeah.
So to make it so everybody can meet it, because, you can, you can take the test up there at your discretion, right?
Well,
Yeah, just
I
say
think
it'll-
it's spelled out in there that. if
That we have
feel
an
like-
option to do that.
Yeah, if we feel
Yeah,
like
because
it's,
I'd rather not to have every 4 cubic yards and have them do it random. Because then if they fail it, you've got the option of just canceling the permit. Before once every 4 cubic yards kind of makes it pretty overbearing for anybody.
And that's, well,
because when I read it, we talked about it, and I totally understand where you're trying to come from, one, specific, especially specific type of wastes that could cause us some issues down the road. But I don't know, it just, we have to look at that broad spectrum of who's going to use that, and if it's gonna cause us some issues with our wastewater treatment people, I don't know whether we want to maybe be quite that tight. I don't know. We want it to be
And-
tight, and we want it to be strict. But if we have to
That's-
bring our wastewater people in, I
that's
don't
where
know whether they do.
if,
that
if
kind of
there's a better way to write this, then by all means, give me the better way to write it. I
testing,
just,
Sure. and
with Weston and I have gone through this multiple tries to try to.
Yeah,
get it.
Western's trying to get the wording for what you're wanting to require.
Yeah.
I think we could adjust the wording to it. Cause I would suggest that we go to, an average weight, whenever you feel like you need up that average weight, just like you do with the sewer. You know how big their truck is and you're gonna be close, so you charge so much. Well,
Could there be
Is there-
one test per load, no matter who you are? What is that?
So,
Not enough,
Lance,
I
you've been
guess.
around the wastewater people, what are their regulations as far as testing? I mean, they have specific testing, but I don't know. They just said, when I talked to Scott, that they have no problem meeting the paint filter test. And we have a letter that they
Yeah.
wrote us that states.
Well, so they don't have requirements for that sludge necessarily. They don't have to have it at a certain area, because if it's too wet, they store it on site and let it dry out before they haul it somewhere. So they don't have to meet a certain criteria, but as they produce it.
But if they're categorized according to our ordinance as significant industrial user, then they have to according to our requirements.
According to a permit.
Right.
Yeah,
Can I see that? I just wanna look at the top of
I think it'd be just we'll work to make it a little more generic for everybody.
and I agree, I just don't know how to do that and make it enforceable.
Well, even the one test or, whatever, if you look at a load and suspect, you could do a paint filter test up on the hill. If you see a visual problem with either of them, do the paint filter test. If they fail it, you reject it.
I
Are
think
we
you
gonna
almost have to do that in order to take the,
In order to
Judgment out.
reject it,
in order to reject it up there. Otherwise,
because it isn't that way in Southern Idaho Solid Waste.
Well,
They did a visual inspection and too wet to accept, and they sent it away.
So did they do a paint filter test on that, or did they
No.
just do a visual?
They just
site,
did a
like,
visual inspection, that was on their
separates out
form.
the
do we have that allowed for in here?
In here, we can reject it based on,
I do believe.
based
it's in
on
there, but-
photo evidence.
Outstanding.
Of, let's see,
It states that in there somewhere, that there's visual testing. An additional testing, I believe.
The county maintains the right to visually inspect the loads for unreasonably large amounts of free liquids, document the same by digital photographic evidence, and to conduct a paint filter test of any load prior to its deposit in the solid waste disposal sites. Loads that fail this paint filter test or fail to, or fail the visual inspection cannot be returned to the solid waste disposal site without reprocessing and dewater.
Yeah, that's, so, you know, the every 4 cubic yards is the one that I'm having a problem with. To keep it generic for everybody,
Mhm.
make it doable,
I like the idea of 1 per load. I think that
yeah,
would be doable for Versa too, wouldn't it?
I think it'd have to be doable for.
Yeah.
Well, and I don't, I mean, okay, so if we adopt that and we do 1 per load,
How do you
Is
get a
that's-
representative sample from a whole dump truck full of waste with 1 test? That's where the 4
It's kinda
cubic
like a
yards came.
random drug test, you know, I mean, how do
similar,
you,
yes.
get a test for every employee all the time, you know?
Where are they testing it though? Are they testing it at the landfill or at
So
Intermountain Packing?
Intermountain Packing is testing it at the facility as it's being
We
generated.
have the option to test it up there, which I think another spot, I mean, if you suspect, because I got a hunch, as much as we've been through this, getting a little familiar with how it settles and everything, you know, you could, if you thought you had a hot spot there, just test it.
They're not gonna try to cheat the testing either if we leave in the visual inspection. If you can still reject it for visual inspection, like it's written in there, they're not gonna take that chance. I mean, they're gonna
I
make
think-
sure.
that they have been beat up in southern Idaho for that same thing, visiting with the gal at the scale. So they've tightened up what they've done from the first time they were there versus to the last time that they were there as well. Cause that's a long ways for them to drive and get rejected, now they have all the way back, so.
Now, go back to the random drug testing, I mean, that's kind of a deterrent for the employees to stay off that stuff, because they don't know when it's gonna be called. You know, the same option up here, if there's a random test, that, you know, you're gonna be truthful on your taxes for the fear of an audit. You know,
And along with that, again, if they have to pass that visual test, they're gonna be sure it's okay, because they're gonna drive that far and be rejected.
yeah, cause I'm familiar enough with, you know, I don't know about Jackson, you know, those developers, they'd have to do there's, waste people, you have to do the same.
Right.
But that kind of finds, to me, a balance, to where you can spot a serious problem and reject it, but not make it so overbearing, even for you guys, the waste. I think it would be easier to just say, let's get a sample waste and that'll be the fee. Because we do that all the time on other boats, types of boats, don't we?
I don't know that we do it all the time. I think there are some general things that have been fairly constant that we've done averages for. I don't know if this is gonna be constant or not. I don't know.
So on like on contaminated soil and those types of situation, we make them weigh every load.
Oh, do you?
But, like on the mixed containers from like the city and PSI and that, we can do some averages on those. So, I mean, it's flexible, we go either way. So there's just some things that we do.
What about
Makes it-
contaminated soil? Where does that go? Badger?
No, it goes to Peterson Hill and
And
we use it for cover. We have an amendment to our operation plan in 2016 that said that we can use that type of soil. Because it's not deemed hazardous. If it's hazardous, we can't accept it anyway. So basically, if it's underneath the acceptance criteria, then we can take it, and just use it basically as covered material.
and what do we charge them?
We charge the going rate, which is 40, or the out of county rate, which is, I don't know, 150.
It's 40 a ton.
40 a ton. I think
Or
Wright County.
Peter County.
We follow the fee structure with that the same, because it goes to Peterson Hill, so anything that goes to Peterson Hill is charged that $40.
And that's where the certified weight ticket came back in for this, is trying to get that $40 per ton. We do have the
And I
minimum
don't
load.
know that, I don't think that would be a serious problem for a person, because what are they bringing up there? 1 or 2 loads a week, maybe.
Yeah, we get, what, did you figure 40 yards a week?
Well, about 40 yards a week average,
So they do,
and that's where the 40 yards came from in here.
they press a couple times a week and get 2 or 3 loads a day. They press.
Yeah, but that load is, they usually have the same dump truck all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, they have the same truck all the time, which I would think that once these guys get set up, or any of these are set up. It sounded like to me in visiting with Southern Idaho that the load size going into their facility was the same, pretty much the same. Cause all their weights were within half ton, quarter ton.
I mean, maybe just adding language in there that, you know, in place of a certified load, if it's determined by the manager, that the trucks that are hauling in there are consistent size, you know, an average may be used, average weight.
Where is that to describe, say, have to weigh every load, which numbers that?
Under delivery standards weighing, all loads shall be weighed on a certified scale. Documentation of weight of each load shall accompany the load to the solid waste disposal site and be presented to the Bonneville County representative performing the visual inspection.
So you could do something like all loads shall be weighed on a certified scale.
Or if it is determined by
Yeah,
the rep manager, the same type of similar, I with that. But they have a regular truck that can be identified and a sample weight, they can be estimated based on average load that is certified weight.
so, yeah, and maybe instead of or first, unless determined by the manager that loads are of a consistent weight and it's just.
So you probably want it unless, and based on the signing of this by the public works director, you probably want it by the public works director. And,
Yeah.
and base it on the information.
Yeah, so that would be a fairly, that type of language.
Yeah.
Simple to change.
If we added that, that would solve this problem.
And I'm still uncomfortable with 34 cubic yards, since especially when you got the ability to take the visual.
And again, the 4 cubic yards or less, I mean, it came about to get a representative sample of the truck. If it's a standard load and it's a 5 cubic yard load, you got 2 tests. But, and do you change it to 5 cubic yards or less, or 6 cubic yards or less? I mean, that's the option, is if they have a truck and it's a trailer, I think. If it's only 5 tons, it's probably less than 5 cubic yards. Wouldn't it be?
It's probably. If it's that gooseneck trailer, it's probably about a 15-yard bed. 20-yard roll-off looking style bed.
But a 20 cubic yard bed would surely weigh more than 5 tons.
Yeah, I mean, there again, a lot of that depends on size, I know how full, but whatever.
But that's what they're trying to do as an average load.
Right.
How full is it? That's why a certified weight ticket gives you how full it is.
Well, and by, I guess, to kind of ease everyone, if we have them weigh, so on some of the stuff that we do, we weigh
Well, you're
5 or
talking
6
about
loads.
weighing and you're talking about the
And then we have.
test for a certain yardage. If it's
Weighing,
15.
To have them weigh the first 10 loads.
Some of the things we do.
And that can be done with maybe an average after we figure that out,
Yeah.
average, but we're talking about how many tests
How
now.
many tests to do?
I still think if you are able to reject a load by a visual inspection, one paint filter test per load should be enough.
I agree.
And then if you want
You can
to,
always modify it later to tighten it up
yeah,
if it's not working.
So I guess let's fall back to the. Let's fall back to the wastewater treatment people. Our Jackson people provide a paint filter test for a visual photo. So in order for them to come from the valley, they have to provide a paint filter, a test, a visual photo representation, whatever you want. So that's how we deal with them.
Well, you should be
They
able
have
to
to
verse it the same way because they're a similar user.
So if it's one paint filter per load, how big is a load from Jackson?
They're, the one wastewater for treatment facility is super small. They run like a little bobtail truck, but the other one comes in a 10-wheeler similar to what the wastewater.
And that's where if you're treating everybody the same, if a little load gets one test and a big load gets only one test.
One test up to what size load? What's a bobtail? How big's a bobtail?
Yeah, they're probably 6 yards. And then those trucks that, Ursa uses, they're like 12-foot kind of bare yard beds. They're similar to what Road and Bridge use. They're 10-wheeler dump trucks. And the one's a little smaller than the other one, so. you
So
have to
if
get-
you change it to a 7-yard, one test per 7 cubic yards, then all of a sudden, maybe there's 2 tests on Intermountain packing trucks and 2 tests on the dump truck. Or if you change it to 1 per 15 cubic yards, then it's 1 test for everybody out there.
Like test per load.
I mean, that's where it's based on the cubic yardage.
yeah, and if that makes you more comfortable, I think that's, yeah, or get the yardage enough to cover it. I don't know, would that be 12 yards up to 12 yards or
So
beyond 12 yards, 2 tests?
for every 12 cubic yards,
I don't know, that's number seem
You
reasonable.
can always
It
tighten it
sounds
up.
like that covers kind of where you're at,
See,
right?
your experience will tell you, and you won't have enough volume to cause yourself significant problems. By starting out that way and then tightening it up if you need to.
Is there, and
If you can kick them back anyway. Based on a visual.
well, and again, it's based on the visual with photo documentation
Right.
or a failed paint filter test up the have.
And that's, I still can't believe that kicking them back on a visual, because I just think it's a little bit arbitrary, a little bit judgmental of whoever's working up there.
Yeah,
And
that's how Southern Idaho Solid Waste is doing it.
that makes me feel better about it if you're doing it that way, but again, I've brought it up so many times with the jiggling, there's gonna be a little, I mean, if there's a half inch of free liquid on top, do you kick them back? Or do you need 3 inches of liquid on top?
and
And
it stays right in the federal regs.
Yeah.
and
Any free liquid, and that's where the paint filter test comes from.
But they're
Okay,
So
also-
if you,
said
so
they've
if
got the
basically
ability
you,
To tighten that thing to
if they can
process.
squeeze it down that tight to keep it a
You
gel, then that's,
And should be the same thing with Ursa, you know.
They have, the Intermountain Packing has the ability
Okay.
to tighten it down, I think.
your
from what we saw.
wastewater treatment facilities have that ability.
And they have that ability,
Yes,
they can do it.
I mean,
It's gonna-
I've never seen a load, now when they come in, those loads jiggle, but I've never seen them unload a load that ever had any type of
Really?
free.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it has a sheen to it, we just, cause especially in the summertime, because the heat makes that stuff start to react, but I've never seen free liquid.
They used to, back when we got behind, you know, they had that stuff sitting out there.
Yeah.
And it would drain water. Well, it did smell too, but it also drained water.
See, because they use a gravity.
They have a gravity thickener out there. They
Yeah.
add polymer to it and it goes through a belt process. But it's not a screw process, so it's a slightly different
It's a
process.
Totally different process, but even that stuff.
And
they
that
look
would
at
have to
on
be
the ground,
adjusted in a permit too, based on their thickening process. This is based on a screw press. And there's other presses out there.
Okay, so I was just rereading this, you're making me feel better, but I'm still a little concerned. The county maintains the right to visually inspect the load for an unreasonably large volume of free liquid. That wording is troubling. So
That's
an
from the lawyer.
unreasonably, in my opinion, an inch isn't an unreasonably amount of free liquid.
But it is if you base it off of the federal regulations. The federal regulation spells it out like.
Any free liquid.
Then that ought to be changed in here. To reject the load based on any free liquid.
Yeah. I think.
As per the federal regulation.
Well,
Yeah.
and
it says that.
right to
in here.
visually inspect a load for unreasonably large volumes of free liquids as defined by 40 CFR 258.2.
I would just take that language directly from 40.
So you think it's okay leaving the language as long as it has that as defined?
Well, so
But they
You-
kind
what
of
you're saying is-
contradict each other.
I think.
Main-
You
we
don't
Maintain the
want a
right-
reasonable amount of liquid and then 40 CFR, which says no liquid.
Yeah,
I would
Well-
just take 40 CFR, which says
CFR.
no liquid, and then
So
Cite
the
it
county
afterwards.
maintains the right to visually inspect the load based as the load for free liquids as defined by 40 CFR. So we take
Yeah.
out the unreasonably large volumes of.
then it
That's
just,
what I would
refers
suggest.
back to 40 CFR.
So
Okay.
that's what, Jefferson's been denying to us to stand on the visual on the free liquid.
and I think that helps.
I think that's the two major sticking points, being able to get the average, so it saves you a lot of headache,
Mhm.
you know, then you just, because once they're routinely doing that, you'll know if they're bringing the same truck, which I'm guessing they do all the time. And it's like any of the other loads that you have, you charge per load. Doesn't matter if it's clear full or part full, they pay for a full load. Unless they want to go in and get the certified weight, if they think it's gonna, but leave that up to them.
Yeah, I mean, there's some options there. The thing is though, if we're going to. We don't have a per load. Correct.
You have a documented load that a mixed load or whatever, it's $200 per load,
Right, that's not,
but you have that as a published thing.
What's the holdup about weighing it? Why don't we want to weigh? Wouldn't we want to know? This is the amount of volume we're taking into our waste facility from this user.
so I'll tell you what, so for the
Let's
next
put
week,
you
you
on job
drive
training
past
out
their
there.
house every morning on your way to work, it got really good. Of that, and then tell me why I don't wanna cross. the
Well, I know that.
It's like,
Oh,
I understand
Oh,
the
I-
smell, but I'm saying for a volume purpose, why would we not want to know?
that's my objection.
This is the amount of waste that we're taking into our solid waste facility, and when you're defining a significant industrial user, and I think the problem that we have with the definition that's in that ordinance is our ordinance doesn't define a significant industrial user. So are you defining them off of the type of waste they're bringing to the facility, or are you defining them off the amount of waste they're bringing to the facility?
well, it needs.
I
to
think
be
we have to have
defined
the
by
ability to
type.
do both.
But if you're not, yeah, but then I'm saying if
But
you're gonna, you have to weigh the load, so you know the amount of waste that they're bringing to the
Well,
facility.
the weight and the volume are two different things.
We base our semi-annual, annual permits off of tonnage. Then we estimate our volumes on our special load study.
objection to having them weigh everything. You know, cause, Jackson does anyway, don't they?
What's that?
Well,
Jackson weighs,
Jackson weighs,
Certified.
we just have, Ursa start to weigh, cause they've gotta have, there's a scale down there someplace.
well, they've got the scale on the way up here at the truck stop that they could.
It's
stop
easier
and
to
weigh.
document it that way.
Yeah. And it, yeah. That'd make it less complicated, more standard, so. I'll pull that suggestion just to keep it.
Well, and the only reason I bring that up as a concern is because all we have in 255.23, so we either need to change 255.23 or define it better in here. Is commercial industrial waste from commercial industrial generators that will prevent the safe continuous operation of the county waste storage facilities as determined by the county commissioners from time to time. And then any waste that will cause or could cause by its deposit therein, the county to violate the DEQ regulations as outlined by state statute. So either any person who falls under either of those is a significant industrial user, or we need to define it further in there by this
As-
type of waste and
As
this amount of
determined by
waste.
the county commissioners from time to time.
Yeah, so we could put that language in there.
Changed based on experience.
Well, it can be changed, and that's why when I said Intermountain Feed Packing is the only one at the current time that I would consider a significant industrial user.
Yeah, it's the only one that's asked for the permission to dump. Be permitted to dump right now, they're the only ones, but that's. what
Yeah,
I'm saying.
but that's. I'd be a little more comfortable if, we honestly think that the sludge is industry, it should be covered by that. Let's just get it done now.
So I mean,
My
they're gonna
honest,
wonder why we're saying.
yeah, my honest belief is the URSA thing is in a different category than this is. Just because this is an industrial, commercial type of application and the wastewater treatment plant, I don't consider an industrial type of use.
Yeah, but is that contrary? to what
I-
the Ordinance says.
Well, it goes back to the any waste that will cause or could cause by its deposit therein, the county to violate any DEQ regulations.
And they're,
And
and they meet the.
URSA,
So if they meet the DEQ regulations, we're probably okay, and then if you call it a commercial or industrial waste and you're not categorizing URSA as a
I don't know,
commercial, it's,
John, what did you have?
I was just gonna, it seems like this is very, very focused on one commercial business. And I think it needs to be broad enough that it covers all of them. Because if it's not, I mean, if it looks to us like it's focused on one business, it's gonna look to them like it's focused on one business. And we're gonna keep fighting this.
Focused on one business or one industry, because there are other businesses in this industry.
I would agree with that.
See,
Yeah.
because what I.
But we don't,
I'm hearing now.
none of the
is-
other businesses forced us or brought us to a position where we had to do this.
Sometimes a violation is a great motivation for an ordinance.
well,
Definition.
and that's, the saying that I said before, abuse forces regulation.
Yeah.
Or regulation follows
But-
abuse.
You're saying that they're not. You're not categorizing the waste treatment plants based on this definition as a significant industrial user.
Oh, what I said is, I don't think it's an industrial use. They may be considered significant because of the sheer volumes that they're bringing to us.
Do we need to modify the title of?
Well, so the significant industrial use could be applied if you choose to say URSA is bringing enough that they need a permit.
but that's where I say, I think we need to change the definition, because is the intent any significant user, right? And then what's the definition of that? Or is the intent, okay, this is just significant users that operate commercial and industrial businesses that generate waste? Because that's where you're gonna have to go if you're not wanting to put Ursa under the same category.
I don't have a problem putting Ursa up in the same category, but based on this industrial definition, we should broaden the title of it. Significant, what type of user up there?
I think though, if you start to,
So this is, yeah, this is called industrial waste acceptance. And that's where I think the definition could use some additional help.
Yeah.
But the significant industrial user is a common acronym to how you permit special types of products. So when you call it significant industrial, generally it's based on the waste stream volume or the waste stream strength in wastewater stuff. And this is kind of based around a wastewater permit process. And I try to adjust it to a waste acceptance process.
I feel like, you know, in a whole, what you've done, what you guys have came up with is great. I had that concern the whole time that I don't want to bring up other issues with the wastewater people. So if there is some way to segregate or separate, I'm all over that.
I think,
I don't think that your wastewater people are gonna wanna take those samples.
But if we change the sample to one per truck or one
Okay,
per
so
12
let's
cubic
go back
yard.
to this. So right now, DEQ DEQ had us or asked us to go to our wastewater people, and they either had to each load give us a certified paint filter sample and done by documented photographics, you know, all that, or they give us a letter that states that they can meet or exceed the federal requirements of 40 CFR 23.
I
So
think if they
that's
get
what's
it,
in our operation.
right, that's in
plan,
the
and that's what they
operation
made
plan,
us-
but
the
I think
language
if
they
we
made us
go
put
to
in
the
there.
permit process, they would have to provide that paint filter test for every load.
So for your wastewater people that aren't currently doing the paint filter test, but declare by letter that they can meet that.
If they get a permit, they would have to start testing every load.
but what would stop Intermountain Packing from giving you a letter that says they can meet 40 CFR 23 and wanting to be treated the same way?
That's why the permit comes into play.
But that's what I'm saying. I think I think the permit's good. I'm just saying, I think we need to go back and say, this is what makes you a significant industrial user. This is why you would have to get the permit. So whatever you guys feel like, hey, these are things that make an significant industrial user in the landfill. I just think we need that defined.
And I think
Otherwise, I think you're
Weston,
too broad.
well, and I believe Weston believed that it was specific enough to say that you guys need one.
Yeah, I mean, there's some specific language in there, no doubt, that tries to support that. I just, like I said,
Okay, but I'm confused where it was someplace you guys indicated that they were a similar industrial generator, whatever you call it, the sewer. And now you're saying they're
Well,
not.
So what I said was, it's a dewatered sludge.
Okay.
But the makeup of that sludge is significantly different.
the way
It's
that
still a
they-
dewatered sludge. But that sludge is made up of significantly, in my opinion, different material.
Kind of inert.
Right,
Almost, it could be used for
it is used for fertilizer, it is used for ground cover, it is used for daily cover in some instances. I mean, have used it for that.
Which they will, when they get their extra expansion done, be able to use it for reuse, water for crops and spread it on there. They
Well,
just
that's
have
coming
to-
out of the back end of the plant, but not the sludge itself.
Okay, well, but they could use the sludge. City of Idaho Falls takes that.
Yes,
Chad used to spread sunshine with all of his neighbors out in Iona until they complained so much.
Right, but,
And now he moved it up his own phone.
but that's different. What they're spreading on the fields is different than what you're taking from the city. And it's similar here. They have what we would be taking from Ursa is different than what if they had the opportunity or decided to. They could take part of theirs and spread it, but they don't. They have a different process, and so they
Okay, go
break it
back,
down.
go back to the definition then that you're talking about, because that's, the reason you wanted on this is because of regulations in the federal regulations on this that they don't have on person, right?
But they're not kind of sticky because Ursa is underneath the same.
Controlled by the same CFR.
well, they're controlled on free liquid by the same thing, but they're not, it's a different industry. And so there's
Yeah.
different regulations based on what is inside of this waste versus what is inside of the waste from Mercer.
What's the difference? The only difference I'm seeing is the flood. I mean, other than that, it's same, it's a big difference. The same
Well,
SHIT, it's just a different animal.
In wastewater treatment, it is quite a different thing. I mean, you're talking about the leftover small microorganisms that is used to eat the wastewater, eat the recognizables versus the blood and the guts and the manure and the other stuff that
Yeah,
is
it's totally different.
Is it totally?
Oh, yeah, because,
So how can you?
and the
define-
process is totally different.
that's what I've been struggling with all along, is how do you define it? Because I don't know how to define it separate. I just know that it's a different material,
But if you get.
but it's still a dewatered sludge.
If someone were to take it to court and say, treat people differently, why? And that would be your testimony, you'd lose.
And that's, again, I mean, it comes back to the permitting process and Weston felt that the definitions that are in here were tight enough to say that we're doing a permitting process on this industry because of these things, but I don't know, I don't have all the answers.
I guess. I just don't see why we would be so concerned about Ursa having to go through the same process. I mean.
I'm not-
I feel like for some reason we're trying to protect them, but it's like they're a user too. They use the facility. Why would we not have them go through the same process? I mean, it sounds like with the stuff we take from Jackson, essentially we're having them do something similar to this, maybe
Well,
not
they-
exactly that,
They either have to provide a paint filter. test
or give us the letter. And so all that I
Which-
see
which
this
all-
as is a policy change that
all
you're doing the test.
Wastewater treatment facilities can write you a letter because they're in visiting with Scott. Their regulations make them deep water to a point where they can basically pass it. They just don't do the paint filter test on a consistent basis. They know part of their regulation and all that is based upon that federal deal, so they can pass them. Now, do they operate by 40 CFR? I don't believe they do. They have a different set of regulations. It probably comes out of the IDAP or something like that. I don't, Lance has been around.
So maybe you just
Well,
put some
But they
language
can
in
pass
here.
that paint filter test.
Well, and personally, I don't have an issue with requiring Ursa to get a permit. I don't.
The part that I have the problem with Ursa getting a permit is right now, the way that we work with them right now, they can pass that test. And we know they can pass that test, and they have written us a letter that fulfills the requirements of DEQ that states that they can pass that test at any time.
So what,
So you're going to implement more stringent or make them do more testing. That is not part of their requirements, I guess.
so couldn't we put some language in here that says if it's specifically a wastewater treatment facility that they can provide that?
There again, though.
I don't feel like,
If you get into a piss and match with, in a court of law, I don't know whether you could back something like that. And that's where your legal people come in. That's why Lance could have wrote this permit. And he could have done it easily, but he did it in conjunction with one of your legal people to make sure that it met the requirements of the federal law.
so did Weston feel like that under this permit, Ursa wouldn't need to get a permit?
I don't know that he's specifically
I
been
don't think
asked
we
that
talked
question.
about it.
I think that's probably what would be best. is
But
if
I
that-
think it goes back to if the, in the ordinance 255-23, if the commissioners think that this industry needs a permit, they're gonna need a permit. If the commissioners say that Ursa doesn't need a permit, then Ursa doesn't need a permit. If the commissioners say intermittent meatpacking needs a permit, then they need a permit. I mean, that's where
Where's
this
that, where's that in
ordinance
the ordinance, which, I mean, which.
255.
A under 13A,
the commissioners have the discretion to say,
yeah.
you need a permit and you don't.
And the chemical composition of this type of waste is definitely different. I mean, you have active working bugs in the wastewater, and this stuff is a total. Plus, they're putting different types of chemicals in it to tighten it up so they can.
I talked to Scott Berry. And, he said that they, when they take it once a month, that's what they provide you, and they actually have to send it back to the lab. You know, for all the different elements, and everything, so it actually comes out, showing that it's pretty safe for Earth. But I said, would it be a problem? Because as I understand the paint filler test for a load, he said, no, each load, because we have to send it to lab. I said, no, as I understand, I'll make sure, you're probably gonna have to go back and talk to him. This is just taking a probe, putting it in a paint filler, and letting it sit for a certain.
No. What the paint filter as it's defined is you take a representative sample and you put it in this funnel with a paint filter in it
Right.
and let it sit for 5 minutes. And if any liquid comes through, it fails.
That's what I was saying, you're just specific. He said that wouldn't be a problem if that's all they had to
To do the paint, to do a test.
do.
per
A
load.
paint filter that way if you're
Per
gonna do one
load.
So anyway, I mean, you're gonna have to go back and work on this anyway, so.
So I mean, yeah, we pretty much already have our Teton County people programmed. So if it's just a matter of programming Ursa, then they're willing
Yeah,
to
Scott,
do that.
I knew he'd be
Maybe it's
willing
not
to
a big
do
deal.
that, because
I
they're
think it's
pretty
better.
confident about it, it's just safer. If you're gonna require it, avoid the challenge.
I think that's probably the biggest problem here is, and you know, I just said that a minute ago, that's why you work with one of the legal representatives of the county, is to make sure that if these guys decide to follow through with this legally, you can say, we haven't segregated you out, we're treating everyone the same, and you've got to be able to provide that
Unless you
documentation
can
and that much.
change your definition. Of an industrial user, because right now you're kind of basing it on a volume.
Well, so what does it say in 255-23 about the commissioners deciding?
I haven't found that, Austin.
It says,
Which paragraph?
commercial industrial waste from commercial and industrial generators. Why is it cutting me half off? Hang on. Decided to freeze up on me.
Decided to.
Let me see where you're at.
It's being weird. I don't,
So for commercial industrial generators that will prevent the safe continuous operation of the county waste storage facilities as determined by the county commissioners from time to time.
So if the county commissioners say that Ursa needs a permit, they get a permit. If the county commissioners say that the guys from Jackson wastewater treatment need a permit, we can give them a permit. And honestly, I think that it does make sense to at least say, Ursa, we're gonna work through this process, you're gonna get a permit.
I do too, and that's why I wanted to check with them to find out if that was unreasonable demand on. You know, when he understood it, he said, oh, that's not a problem, especially if you say, you gotta put it in front of a sit for 5 minutes. You know,
And that's what it is. I mean,
Yeah,
that
they
it
just-
takes over.
they just certify that they've done that, you take a look at it. If you feel like you need to audit it, you can do the paint filler test if there's any freestanding liquid. Any freestanding liquid. I hate this interpretation, you know, there's 1 inch too much.
Well,
Yeah,
and
I
that,
think, like I said, I think it's 40 CFR, I mean, we could pull it up, but it pretty much states that if in there is any free liquid.
Yeah, treat them the same
not
way.
supposed to take. And honestly, in talking with Matt Hughes a while back when he felt like we were producing a lot of leachate from household quantities, because we were taking like beer, like leftover beer and wine and those kind of things, and he felt like that was creating excess leachate for us. So they even asked us to limit or not take any of that,
Who did?
Matt Peters from
From
DEP, just to mitigate the leachate process. So we walked away from some of that stuff just to keep, because that really falls under free liquid. If you take a can of beer and put it in the landfill, that's free liquid, and it's not going to pass the test, so.
But that garbage would be a lot heavier.
Them bugs in there would be a lot happier.
Yeah, it would help you.
But yeah, so they've even asked us to limit that type of the free liquid, so
Based,
in the
based on
40
what
CFR.
regulation, is that one of their gut feel?
the
things?
placement of any liquid which
40
is not
CFR.
a hazardous waste in a landfill is prohibited.
Yeah.
So there's that
Any liquid.
portion, but then up above it talks about containers holding free liquids must not be placed in a landfill, the placement of bulk or non-characterized liquid, whether
So if I throw a gallon. of
in any
hot day
landfill is
milk in my
prohibited.
Garbage can that goes up there, that's.
technically, it's violating the,
But
Code.
if you read on, it says household quantities are
Okay.
exempt. So
Yeah, there's other stuff in here, but that's the,
Why don't one of you reach out to Scott Berry and just explain to him direction?
yeah, I know, I hang out
See if-
there. I like it out there.
Just to see if.
I've learned a lot from them guys. I went out there when they changed their membranes, and that was just like the craziest thing I ever seen.
See, and that's why I don't worry about the strength of it, because I know the process that goes through, what's left is pretty harmless.
Oh, yeah.
You know,
and
it's just-
that's why I say it's a completely different
But
material.
until you come up with a definition that would give us cover for distinguishing differently.
I think we're gonna have more problem, I mean, other issues than the free liquid thing. That's it. And we'll work our way through those.
So the issue here on treating anybody differently is you're not gonna treat any processors any different than this,
No,
that go up there.
So to summarize, first, we're gonna change the weight from 4 to 12, right? So we're all agreeing on.
that's the volume, not
Or
the
the
weight.
volume, excuse me, the volume. And then we're gonna add some wording to unless for weighing, or do you want to
Under-
weigh every load? What did we
Well,
decide?
so I think we have we put in the wording, the option.
So you will put that in.
I will put that
That's
option
another
in, but it starts out with weighing every
That's
load.
fine.
Which you've done with Ursula already.
Yeah,
Thank you.
and then under inspection, I'm gonna cross out part of the volume there.
When they got their new truck, we did.
So we
made
talked
them
3 changes,
4 or
basically.
5
Three-
that- that-
3 changes that I see so far, yeah.
That good with you?
Yeah.
We're not building this today, I don't
I
think.
was gonna say, I'd be a little hesitant until we see the exact language.
Yeah.
And what I'll do is with those changes, and I'll send it to Weston as well, but I'll make these highlighted areas blank.
Yeah, and the permit blank.
Yes,
the company name.
yeah, that, I'll make those blank.
So, I mean, realistically, probably one of next Wednesday's the earliest. Be. Just get it off the agenda. As an action item for next.
Yeah, make sure it has specifically action.
See, that's why I needed to send them notice of in next week,
Yeah.
because
Good point.
we can't adopt it, I'm hoping. Sounds like should be pretty close to just getting rid of this thing. But you found that they had only taken 5 loads down.
Blair had talked to Southern Idaho Solid Waste.
Yeah.
And they had
In
taken,
the month, you said, it's 5.
We're in the month of December.
well, from November, they said from November, but I don't know whether it was from November 1st or November 30th, I don't.
Yeah, I could call her again, find out for sure. but
And
I'm in
December was a
the-
short month for everybody.
And they turned one back. They rejected one.
They rejected one on November 1st.
Very first one they took down there, I think, is the one that they sent back, similar to us and Jefferson County. I think they were just trying to bulldoze their way through instead of, you know, following the regulations. And when we went there for our tour, and obviously they had cranked that, you know, cranked it down, they got meter exceeding, so.
Well,
They have the ability, it's not,
Well, but the good
you're
thing-
not asking them to do
Yeah,
anything
the
that they
good thing
can't.
about that tour is they cranked it down to show they could do it.
Yeah.
So now we know they can do it.
Yeah.
And there was no smell to it.
There was a slight smell, there
Something-
wasn't
something
much of a
stunk
smell,
in that place.
not
I'm telling
compared
you.
with the
Oh,
rest
But
of the
not-
plant.
Not the stuff. 'cause you
Not the
said you
stuff,
could
yeah,
really
you guys
smell
saw me, I grabbed a handful of
Yeah.
it, put it up my nose, all I could smell was a little bit of blood. So I don't know what to smell.
Did you-
You live on a farm, all those pesticides, you can't smell anything.
I like the smell of money, and that's that green manure.
That's right,
But that's an indication that the smell is coming from some other parts of the process.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it was the
That's a putrid smell.
hides and everything else that was being dumped into the other truck out there that what most of the smell was coming from.
Where do they take their hides and stuff?
I have no idea. For a while, they were taking some up to us, but I don't know that they're still taking hides.
Because we started charging.
Yeah, start charging, them, they start going the other way. It's an interesting situation because other places don't do the process that they do. There's one in Burley that we load fertilizer next to all the time. And they don't have a dewatering or any of that. That material just goes out the back, goes into a trailer, and then they take it somewhere and they process it. And I've heard, and I don't know this for a fact, without actually stopping to visit with, but there is a facility somewhere down there where they take all that material and make fertilizer.
That's what happens with all the stuff out at Riverbend's plant.
So did
It's
they have a
specific.
dewatering anything?
No, it's specific that when they do the animals and the guts and everything goes down, there's a trap door and it falls right into a truck below it. They take the truck and they take it to a fertilizer plant where it's all
So
processed.
it's interesting to me that.
I don't know where he takes it, but
That they went to this extreme. And maybe that was because they had to meet. Obviously, they had to do that part of their facility in order to put that water back into the sewer system. But out there, if all that's going in, you know, why they didn't adopt that type of process,
a reading between the lines on that article, was it East Post Register, East Idaho News? You know, the city had, some spokesman has said they've been working on filters and scrubbers, and things like that. So, you know, the city has been tightening down on it too because it's,
Well, I think they've been causing some issues water wise as well. I think
They
that
have,
what they're putting into the wastewater thing is causing the heartburn now. At the end.
doesn't that stuff bother the bugs that digest?
It can upset the bugs and cause them to react in a different way.
Yeah.
Their preferential feeding is something is easier to eat than the hard stuff. They'll eat the easy stuff and the hard stuff keeps going through.
And that's the reason that your wastewater treatment facility got away from the jerky plant out there, because it's similar in chemistry, and so it was making their bugs, it was just making their bugs go crazy.
Well, it's clogging the streams because they had too much fat.
Yeah.
Everything should do it. They would just open the, flush it all down the toilet.
Yeah, and I think that's what this process is, that's the damage it's causing the city of Idaho Falls. It's just an overload for their bugs, and like Lance said, they're picking and choosing, and so the process is not
Well,
finished.
One of the things that I was gonna suggest that reminds me of is once we get this adopted, I think we should send it over with a request that the city of Idaho Falls make every, review this, make everybody who qualifies, make it part of their process, they sign off that they're aware of this or something. Yeah. You know, and come to the county to get the permit. We don't.
There should have been definitely some communication and maybe even working together on them putting that plant where they put it.
You know, that's where you hope to start. Okay, I'm fine with that.
Okay,
Right,
we'll take it up again next Wednesday then.
Okay.
And
that's better.
thanks for all your work on this, Lance. I mean, we recognize how hard you've worked on this, you and West both. It's been a really daunting task, but I think we've got something that's really good right now.
I'm glad you didn't say next Monday. Next Wednesday we'll get it done.
Right.
Okay.
I got some other questions, just general. I know we were long. But, road projects, you know, we're kind of trying to get together to look at possibility for the, carryover money we've got. Road projects. The, up by Ryrie, you know, that county line road,
Mhm.
was that 8 miles you said?
7,
7 needed to be done,
yeah,
and your estimate was about a
close to
million.
$1 million a mile.
See, because part of the thing that's changed, we're gonna get together pretty quick and start setting a different group, but they'll all be grouped in one. You know, but we got 8 point some odd million that we were gonna have to put aside for Iona Road.
So with that one, the grant application, the total project was 9.1 million and I asked for 8.1, so there's still $1 million
Okay,
up there that we're gonna have to.
but I'm looking at the 8.1 we got that we were gonna have to
Right.
allocate and something that's fairly easy to put together without a lot of work that we could get on the ground.
Yeah,
What's the process to, is there any engineering or what needs?
so we have a couple projects that already have the engineering mostly done.
Just on this, what's
On which one?
County
On
line.
County Line Road. We could probably get the engineering done on that without a huge delay. There would have to be some because we're getting close to canals and stuff like that. But I think if that is the direction we go, I would go out and try to get an engineer to do a very basic design on what we need.
because I.
We don't have any bridges on that 8 mile section.
Yes, we do. But we would probably not replace the bridges. We would neck down and do a little bottleneck at those bridges. The county line road needs rebuilt from the base up. But we're not looking to widen it significantly or replace structures. What we're trying to do is rebuild the base.
Right, and my question was, could that be put together quick enough to get a bid while the bidding season is good and while fuel prices are down?
I doubt that we could get plans and a bid together before summer. What we can possibly do is finish up the design for the span wire signal at 25th East and 49th North that's already as close to being designed. We have the design for widening out Ammon Road from Lincoln Road north to the highway. Those are essentially, we already have kind of the plans there.
Those could happen next summer.
Those could happen pretty fast.
I don't think it'd hurt to start getting engineering. Have on the shelf because
There's a county line.
for the county line, because that would be a quick, easy project. And listening to the governor's state of the state, I think we should be able to block that extra money coming in. So I think we need to start refreshing that list of roads.
Well, and there's a big list of roads. I mean, County Line, Ammon Road, First Street east of 45th East. Hill Road is starting to see some stuff. 52nd is in need of some attention.
Sorry. No, no, but I mean, you know, looking at Washington, and it's just a matter of as soon as we can figure out the block of money and when these other sources come in, they scratch off some of those on the wish list and make it so the other, if they're easy enough, we could get ready to go. I just kind of,
Long as we can get 45th and Iona and Ammon all going this summer, so I can't get anywhere.
Did we just reach our time limit?
Of some annexation and some of
some
us
really or
pushing your
deeding the
deeding.
property over to them. So if we deed the property over to them and they don't have jurisdiction, that's where I'm just like, how about we just say you take it? I mean, you accept jurisdiction over that roadway.
yeah, but we can't deed prescriptive easements.
And that's where there's probably a couple places along there that are prescriptive.
What about an agreement, kind of like a First Street? And except, you know, we would work with that, they pay for all of it.
I think that's a viable option.
I think it's better that way, cause I think we need something that ties them to doing the improvements on it too.
Yeah.
If we're gonna,
Yeah, because
And bring
First
some
First
work
Street,
of-
they came to us, we have to pay for our section, but if they're pushing this, I think you should say, yeah, we'll sign an agreement with you.
And you pay for the improvement.
Right, you gotta pay all the costs to improve. And consider taking it all the way to First Street.
Yeah.
yeah, there's quite a bit through there that we don't have right away,
We don't have.
except for
platted
prescriptive.
right away.
There's not adjacency, but I think we could do it in an agreement that we just say,
Because they've got developers and everybody coming in that they can require. And that helps us take care of multiple problems that we got. out there.
Well, if you're going to Sunnyside, why don't you go to south of Sunnyside? Cause they have a subdivision that fronts onto 45th East, south of Sunnyside now.
That's Brad Clemens' backyard.
Yeah, yeah.
I think his lot is almost right up the border, yeah. Cause they'd come up there, but yeah, but you gotta do it based on demand and need.
If
You
they
know,
As
could get,
they, as their subdivision is growing, more and more people are using that road south of
It's
Sunnyside.
not like it this year thing, it may be 4 or 5 years,
Right.
but it's worth taking a look at the long-term agreements and
Yeah.
work with them.
yeah, they've got quite a bit. I mean, there's quite a bit they could do there.
But then it's similar to what we're talking, 45th, 47th North. Which one's that?
49.
49.
Yeah.
You know, if the developers and everybody do all the other parts, then that lowers the county's participation. So you can help with partners, you can get more total.
Yeah, and doing it all the way up to First Street is, I mean, they're already having Does Landing, what used to be Does Landing.
Yeah, do
Maybe
that
Does Landing
there.
again, I mean, that's all north of 17 too, so.
Maybe Coletti can go to another $10 million special appropriation.
Well, but that would be another project. I mean, that would be good for those funds,
It would be.
the state funds, you know.
Yeah, it would.
So you get an agreement with them and have them get it ready and then it sits on the shelf.
Especially if it includes the First Street portion, school and everything, that's a good idea on that one. Just have an agreement ready, so you can put in an application the same as you got Iona.
Do we have a time limit? We have to spend those funds on Iona Road? Does that have to be?
I
done
haven't
this year?
heard for sure from the state absolutely when we get the money, so.
But we're well underway getting the engineering done.
The engineering is 95% done. The right of way negotiator has been, we brought him on board. He has received the right of way plans now. He is working on getting a proposal to me for the right of way negotiation.
Well, maybe that would be a way to accomplish what they want, is have a joint application with them, and we could go ahead and get started on that to sit on the shelf. And if that funding came, you do it. If it doesn't, you don't.
The way the prices are for projects, the $5 million cap in the urban fund is just, it's
Not gonna get us
ridiculously small,
anywhere.
so.
Yeah, but you got 8 million.
Well, I got 8 million, but it's not through the urban fund.
Well, that's the fund.
No, and that's the money that we want to be all ready for. If it comes out again next year, we want to be all ready.
That'd probably be a good joint project.
Yeah,
Oh, and Ammon Road.
Ammon Road would be another.
Which
good
is
one.
what the city of Ammon put in for, and we said we would participate with them, is widening out Ammon Road from 17th north to Lincoln. That portion of Ammon Road
Which,
needs help too.
If we got all of our engineering to the highway, then that would probably help the city because then that connects directly to the highway. Supposedly, Daryl would find a way around that.
anyway, just a thought.
Did I hear you say that you would like him to go and start on the engineering though for county line?
I don't think it hurt. Just
I'll
have us
work
sit
on
the
getting
shelf.
the,
Okay,
an engineer to give me a scope of work for it.
okay.
Cause then, you know, I was hoping we could kind of shift that excess money in. I know you'll find enough other projects. Unfortunately. You know, but in your 2 or 3 year plan, you're allocating that carryover.
Yeah.
You could earmark that as maybe year 2. Which, whether the deciders are, could change. But if you've got those, just like we started re-engineering Iona and Ammon, hoping that funding comes, I think the same thing would be there.
Good thing we had those.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah,
we started on those. We did.
On Iona,
Yeah, for sure.
well, that's why I think this 45th, 45th
40,
from,
okay,
First Street South.
yeah. Would be a good project.
I mean, even if you broke it into 2, because, you know, Ammon as much interest in Street, 14th Street. Just, and then have another project go down to Sunnyside.
Yeah,
First street to the roundabout, 21st. Which is a major intersection. of the street.
well, 17th and 21st both need to be redone, cause the mini roundabouts at 17th. They don't have a roundabout now at 21st, although they've talked about
I
that.
mean, the speed bump at 17.
Yeah, that one.
Want everybody.
Yeah, the bus and truck bump.
Anyway, yeah, thanks for indulging.
Yeah.
Just thinking ahead.
Okay, I'll get working on a scope of work for county line.
Okay, good. Anything you had, Austin, before we go? Thank you. Everyone.
Well, so you didn't need to come at all.